Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Feeling like a star, you can't stop my shine. I'm loving. City, my head in the sky. I'm solo, I'm hunting solo, I'm hunting solo, I'm hunting solo. Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight. Finally feeling free and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like. Gonna see a princess, everything's alright. Oh, no job but I answer to. Ain't a fixture in the palace zoo. No, and since the carbon nights off me, I'm living life now that I'm free. Yeah, told me get myself together. Now I got myself together. Yeah, now I made it through the weather. Better days are gonna get better. I'm so happy the carbon night is gone. I'm moving on. I'm so happy that it's over now. The pain is gone. I'm putting on my shades to cover up my eyes. I'm jumping in my ride. I'm heading out tonight. I'm solo. I'm hunting solo. I'm hunting solo. I'm hunting solo. Picking up my plastic, putting it on my side. I'm jumping in my falcon, putting it at my side. I'm solo. I'm hunting solo. I'm hunting solo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Come to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. And I think I just broke Brian.
You're breaking me, man. This is wow.
And people wonder why Harrison Ford wanted to leave the trilogy. Why would he? Why would he possibly object to that? And what's funny is even the graphics of the time, that's a pretty good representation of Harrison Ford. Like even the facial inflection. I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
that is my generation of when I was first started playing console games. Of that and like Masters of Terraskazi and that kind of thing. But I started on the line vector Star Wars game in the arcades. Use the Force, Luke. Good stuff. Good stuff. The song was insufferable, and I'll never get out of my head. So that's fun.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
Wow,
great stuff. I had forgotten about that.
So if you haven't what's that?
Was that from Fortnite?
No, that was Connect.
No, that was from the Connect,
the Star Wars dancing game.
Star Wars.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
And I thought night elf dances were popular. Like who knew?
If you haven't been able to guess, our topic for today is the one, the only Han Solo. We talked about a couple weeks ago the Solo movie, and then talked about the crime families last week. Today we are talking about Han Solo himself, and kind of the character, just throughout the entire trilogy or saga that we've seen him in, not just the Solo movie, but kind of past that, So yeah. What's the first? So let me start off by asking a simple question. What's the first thing you think of when you think Han Solo?
Devilishly handsome Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
I think Han did not shoot first. He just shot.
Yes.
Amen to that.
When I saw that movie in the theater, Greedo did not have a return shot. It was just Han killing Greedo.
Shot. Yes.
That is
one of the things that I hate the most that they changed in the remaster is the stupid thing of him moving to the side and putting in Greedo shooting first. Because no, you're right. Greedo did not shoot first. Han did not shoot first. Han just shot. And
it's so ham-handedly edited. I don't like that scene at all. I would love to have my old Laserdisc back to see like what it was really like, because like it's just a chaotic flash, like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that. I'll just jump right in here. that whole make Greedo shoot first situation is just to make an anti-hero into a hero. And I always liked that about Han Solo in the initial trilogy, is that he's a rogue, he's chaotic neutral, maybe chaotic good, depends on who you ask. But, the fact that he bails on the rebellion, but then he comes back but he is objectively a criminal when we meet him. And I liked that he acted like one. He's not a paladin in disguise. He's a bad guy who does good things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
he eventually develops something a little bit more heroic by the end of the original trilogy, but that's after years of fighting alongside the rebels, and then also his temporary imprisonment at the hands of Boba Fett and the Empire,
and the love of a good woman.
Also, yes.
Yeah. Now, Garrett, you can kind of touch a little bit on, the place of Han in the kind of the hero's journey, and what role Han's character plays in that.
As far as the hero's journey, Han really, like, if you're going beat by beat, he kind of falls in on the second act of the story, where the hero, which is typically Luke Skywalker, is introduced to new allies and potential enemies. And and that's exactly what he is. He's a rogue. We don't know much about him. We know that he's got a little bit of a criminal history. He's trying to avoid Imperials. He's trying to dodge whoever he can, and he's trying to get paid as quickly and as under the table as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so he could flip easily either way. If it was more lucrative for him to rat out Obi-Wan and Luke, he would have done it. I honestly think he would have done that.
In another film, his name would be DJ. I think DJ fills the same role but goes in the other direction.
Yeah, I can see that.
Absolutely.
But he's not a hero. He's a mentor. He's a sidekick, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, he's certainly a high build sidekick, if you will, but he's definitely there to facilitate Luke's journey, is how I read it.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
He, just one of the things I think makes Han such a standout character is exactly the things that made him work, is that he was this roguish character. He's not the hero. And back in the 70s, that kind of character was all the rage, whether it was in your spaghetti Western, where you've got, Clint Eastwood or some other
Man with
actor
no name
playing this drifter, character, all the way up through, you look at films like Rambo, like First Blood. That original film with Sylvester Stallone, he's not a heroic character. He is a drifter. You don't know if he's the good guy or if he's the bad guy.
He's a war criminal. I mean, he's fighting an undeclared war.
Yeah. He is a war criminal, and so you've got a similar trend there, and I think the 70s was kind of the perfect time to introduce a character like Han, because of that same mindset and the development with the characters.
Mm-hmm. I agree. There's always this kind of bad boy element to Han too, I think. Going back to the rogue element, and
sure, the wanted outlaw drug runner is a touch of the bad boy to him.
Yeah. But
he's handsome.
Oh yeah. And you look.
If he had a big facial scar, he'd be a villain straight up.
No, definitely. And in many ways, he was. From the very beginning, you look at him, and he's the complete opposite of Luke Skywalker. at the very beginning. Luke is this fresh-faced farm boy
Can we use
from
dewy-eyed?
dewy-eyed. Just kind
Well-
of like going into this all like, wow, very naive about anything. And you see that in their first interaction with each other, where
They're
Luke
even
is very-
visually cast opposite.
yeah. And Luke is very quick to say, I could pilot a starship, and Han is just even
Even though
quicker
he's
to
had
like,
no experience.
yeah. He's like, I used to fly skyhoppers. I could fly this, and Han just very quickly like, yeah, sure you could, kid.
Yeah, I'm sure you're good on your moped, but this is an F-18.
Yeah.
I like that Han, when we meet him, is, as I mentioned, a wanted outlaw. He's a veteran. He's a deserter. Like he is an Imperial vet who has abandoned his post. No wonder he doesn't want Imperial entanglements. But he's also wearing, the black and white. And I know that they have put this sort of thought into the costuming later in the film. But the fact that Han is wearing the black and white vest shows, I think, it is a nod to his black and white morality. He could go either way, and has.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at classic storytelling, and this is one of the things that Lucas was really good about doing. Is that, I mean, you look at Luke and Vader. Luke is definitely, he's the hero because he's wearing all white. He's got that white blue blade on his lightsaber because he's the good guy. He's pure. Vader is wearing all black. He's got the very menacing blood red saber. Makes him
Can't
look
see his face.
You can't see his face. And what you do see of his mask is very it evokes skull imagery. But then you look at a character like Han Solo. He's that middle ground. I mean, yeah, he's got a criminal past, which is kind of represented by the black vest. But the vest doesn't cover all of him. It just covers a few parts of him. But beneath that is the heart of a hero, someone who wants to do the right thing, but doesn't know how to go about doing it because this is a character who has spent the last however many decades thinking about himself first and foremost.
I think it's interesting that we hear Obi-Wan sort of badmouth blasters as being uncivilized, and Han takes great pleasure in his blaster. Obi-Wan has this civilized weapon of a bygone age, but he's reluctant to use it, whereas Han has this uncivilized weapon of war, and he's flashy with it. He spins it around like it's a toy to him. It's an opportunity to show off, and it's Han plays opposite to several of the objectively good characters in the original trilogy.
Yeah, I would.
And he does experience that character growth, through love of Leia and love of Luke as well. He comes around to become a hero, but originally he has some pretty stern words about I'm just in it for the money, and then he bails.
I think we do get hints, even looking back at the original Solo movie, of that heroic, aspect of him, that more of not always necessarily in it for the money with his relationship with Chewie. I mean, right there, that's a very.
Have you guys seen the meme that Han is Chewie's second dog?
Yes, Han is.
I love that.
Yes,
and it's like it even goes like he's compares Chewie's age to Han's age, and I don't think I saw it phrased that way. Now that I think of it, it was Rey is Chewie's third dog. So that's what Han.
That's the question I want to know.
Well, we haven't met him yet. I would have liked to have seen. Honestly, more Solo movies. I would have liked to see the 10 years between Solo: A Star Wars Story and A New Hope. Because as I mentioned, we were discussing that one. We see everything we know about Han Solo happens in that long weekend that movie takes place in. I'd like to see that heroism beaten out of him. I'd like to see what he experienced that made him that, weathered, bitter cynic that we meet him in A New Hope.
I don't know if I've said it on here or somewhere else, but I've said before, I would have liked to have seen a Solo series, like a Disney Plus series that goes through and have it be episodic. So not like a storyline, but each episode would be Han and Chewie going out for the Falcon in some adventure somewhere.
I believe we likened that to the Young Indiana Jones series that we both missed.
Yeah,
and I even
couple
had my
weeks ago.
own idea for the last episode. The last scene of the last episode would be you would be at the cantina and Chewie coming back to talk to Han, and Han saying, "What? Some kid wants to go to Alderaan? What do you want to go to Alderaan for?"
That's great.
Like
I would
something
love
like that. But in
Yeah,
the
for
last
sure.
would be at the cantina right before, and maybe even you see Luke and Obi-Wan walking in the cantina, and with Han and Chewie there. Like, I think that would have been a cool idea.
That would have been, and I would have been happy with Alden Ehrenreich in it. I think he did a fine job in that film. But again, that, as I said previously, I was not invested in that character. So what they did with him did not affect me emotionally. I was able to watch the show objectively.
So, well, Brian, that brings me to a question. You mentioned this when we were doing our review of Solo a few weeks ago. My question to you is, what is it about Han Solo that turns you off from the character? Like, why didn't you get invested in that kind of a character?
He is portrayed as being very good at something we never see him be good at. In fact, quite the opposite. We only ever see him be bad at it. The only thing, I mean, when we meet him, he's objectively bad at smuggling. That's why Jabba wants him. We also see him as he's a good pilot, but he's almost immediately caught by the Empire. I don't know. I just think he's overblown. Which is to say, I don't dislike the character like, oh, it's bad writing. I just dislike the character as it is written. I think he's a well-written character. He just doesn't appeal to me because he does not demonstrate the skill for which he is apparently galactically famous. And that carries through to the sequel trilogy when we meet him under 2 death sentences, again, for being a bad smuggler. So I would like to have seen on screen more of the skill for which he's so well known.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we get more of that in the books and in the graphic novels than anything else.
Yeah.
And while I think those bits of content and media really helped flesh out, what we know of Han Solo, I think, I don't know, like, it's kind of funny. Like, for me, as growing up as a kid, like, I remember playing Empire Strikes Back. I had this very 1980s scooter, and I had one of those desert caps with the curtain that falls down behind it, because I was living in Phoenix at the time, and I'd go riding around my parents' apartment complex pretending to be Luke Skywalker on Hoth, because it was too cold to be anything else. Okay, someone got that joke. Okay. Anyway, but it wasn't until I was older that I came to appreciate Han Solo, because while Han is a terrible smuggler, he is what I think is best about him is the fact that he is a good friend. Like, we automatically know that jumping into this, he is a good friend to Chewie. He and Chewie are their bosom buddies. They're connected at the hip. Where one goes, the other follows. And it's usually where Han goes, Chewie follows, because Chewie owes him that life debt. Which I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of that play out. Like, how many times has Han done something to get himself in trouble, and Chewie's just like, damn it, not again.
Who Chewie reminds me of? Sorry, go ahead. I'll come back to that.
We'll come back to you in just a moment. But like he is a good friend, because like he starts to leave. Like, he's built this rapport with Luke, especially throughout A New Hope, and then he starts to turn his back on that. But then he has a moment of conscience, and I would love to have been behind the scenes, like hearing that conversation between Chewie and Han, where Chewie's just like, dude, seriously, you're gonna be a jerk and just leave this guy? How would you feel if I had done that to you? This guy saved your life, you saved his. Come on, be an honorable, temporary Wookiee. And that continues to happen, because then when you get to Empire Strikes Back, Luke is out missing in the snow, and Han goes riding back into Echo Base, and he's like, okay, cool, and he starts checking in on Luke, and Luke hasn't checked in. And so the first thing he does is he goes and puts himself back out in danger. to go help his friend. And the fact that he says, my friend is out there in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
And
I think what I would boil down to, Han doesn't, I don't dislike him as much as I'm just disinterested. And compared to Jedi Knight, retired Jedi Knight, blooming Jedi Knight, Space Princess, Space Werewolf, and Space Death Knight, Blaster Toting Scoundrel is, I've seen it, his archetype didn't grab me, and I wouldn't have phrased it this way when I was, between 4 and 12 watching these movies, but Han just wasn't as different from what I had already read enough. What I was going to say was Chewie reminds me of Dr. McCoy on Star Trek. Absolutely, anytime he's asked to do anything about his job, he loudly complains, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor about it." Like, just do it, Bones. And Chewie's the same way. Like, he's an engineer, and every time he's asked to engineer, he doesn't like it at all. I think that's funny. I love I think the sequel trilogy has a lot going for it. Not as much as some of the other films, but I love the scene in the sequels when he is injured and complaining about it, and the medical tech is like, "Yes, I know, that must be very," she's just so, and I like it because I had a dog that was like that. I had this 93-pound Doberman who looked like he was carved out of wood, and he was like, if you Google attack dog Doberman, it was my dog, and he was just a big bowl of pudding. Like if he stepped on something funny, he'd yelp and like climb out of my wife's lap for comfort. It's really funny to see this weapon of war that was just a cuddly little puppy. So, but yeah, that's a good question. I've given it some thought in the shows we've covered the character in the film, but I think that's it. He's just not different enough for me. He just didn't engage me. I do like his character arc, and I like where we go. And it was. I cheered just the same as everybody else when he came back to save us, and he's the only one landed a shot on Vader in A New Hope. So good for him. I guess I stand corrected by myself. We do see him be good at something.
We do,
but it was just he just seemed bland to me compared to all the laser swords and space magic.
One thing I found I've found interesting just thinking about it is with the relationship he has with Leia, and that kind of, you can see where it's almost like that classic thing of the girl looks at the bad boy and thinks, I can change him. I can change him. If I just got my hands on him. And in the end, usually what happens is you find out that no. You go to the sequel trilogy, and what's Han right back doing? Smuggling.
There's a classic scene on a Simpsons show where Bart has a crush on his babysitter, and his babysitter has a crush on Jimbo the bully. And Bart loudly complains, "I don't see what everybody sees in him. He's just a good-looking rebel who plays by his own rules." And the babysitter, Lisa, and Maggie all go, "Ah." But yeah, Han definitely fits that stereotype. He's a good-looking rebel who plays by his own rules.
I don't know if you've seen the it's the skit that Harrison Ford did. I think it was with Jimmy Kimmel, with Chewie in the audience. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
When he yells at Chewie?
He yells at Chewie he's like, "You know what you did?
Yeah.
That was my wife." And just in my mind, I doubt that is now headcanon in me. Princess Leia had an affair with Chewbacca.
Yeah, absolutely. Or Sonostaros, depending how deep you want to get into it.
Yeah. Because and he said she makes the line, "I'd rather kiss a Wookiee." Like, well, I guess she did.
I can arrange that, or was he saying that can be arranged?
Yeah,
that's funny. I do think it's an interesting role that the two of them play off of each other, and the old stereotype of male and female character meet each other and immediately hate each other. They'll be married by the end of this movie, and I like seeing that play out. Even we've seen it play out 1,000 times as far back as Romeo and Juliet and the Greek tragedies that preceded that. But it's very well done, and Leia gets so much more agency than the Juliets of yore do. Mm-hmm. And as Leia always is, because Carrie wouldn't have it any other way. She's she's sassy. She fights back. Like as you say, I'd rather kiss a Wookiee. And the fact that she kisses Luke in front of Han, like may as well be giving Han the finger while she's kissing Luke, which is a little sketchy. After we learned the relationship, there she didn't know.
Well, and if you think about it, I mean, this isn't Leia's story, which, but the first time Leia meets Han, she's saving Han.
Yes, that's a great moment where she has to grab the gun and start shooting. I really like that.
The first time that Leia, who they're supposed to be rescuing, she ends up.
Well, Han is not a warrior. Han is an escape artist. He's a smuggler. He doesn't like Imperial, and he's not there to shoot. And while he's good with a blaster, it's clearly not where his comfort level is. And Leia, whether or not she's good with that blaster, I really forget if she lands any shots, but she's definitely here.
Actually, what's funny is if you look at how many shots she fires in that prison corridor, she actually hits more stormtroopers than Han does, because he's just shooting wildly. Chewie's actually the one doing the majority of the work, and then she takes the blaster and starts shooting at the stormtroopers, because that's what she's been doing.
She's got a good shot grouping, as I recall.
Yeah. The only time we get to see some Han do any kind of decent shooting of any kind was
Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from killing Greedo with the one shot, because nobody else shot first,
which he bushwhacked him. He was sitting across the table from him. That's not accuracy. That's just that's having a good poker face.
Yeah.
Well, true, but I mean, most of his accuracy comes about.
He doesn't really shoot much in Empire. I mean, he does at the beginning, but
Han's a pilot. I mean, you get the sense that he would prefer not to be there for the fight.
Yeah,
and like even in when they're dogfighting in space, he's driving, and Chewie or Luke are in the turret.
No, in New Hope, he is in the other gun. Chewie's flying.
Oh right. Oh,
he's in the other turret.
Sorry,
because he makes the line of like, "Good shot, kid. Don't get cocky."
Oh yeah, he does. Oh, my mistake.
Yeah.
According to this, I did a search for how accurate is Han Solo with a blaster in the Star Wars trilogy. It says, according to the Star Wars lore, Han Solo is depicted as being very accurate with his blaster, particularly due to his modified DL-44 blaster pistol, which is considered to have above average firepower and accuracy, making it a preferred weapon for a smuggler like him. Essentially, he is portrayed as a skilled marksman in the Star Wars trilogy. So now I need to ask the question.
Not how I remember him, but I believe you, Internet. They couldn't put it on Wikipedia if it wasn't true.
I know.
Let's see here. Who lands more shots, Han Solo or Princess Leia? Oh, and there actually was a debate on sci-fi.stack exchange.
Naturally.
Even better. Cinema Blend. The best shot in the Star Wars galaxy according to math. I'm gonna put this up here.
Okay.
You guys will get a kick out of it. Present, share screen. Boom. Here we go. So we're all going to be looking at the same thing. I'm not even going to play the video because we don't need that. Go away. Let's see. Stormtroopers can't hit a damn thing.
All right, I gotta speak to that. One of the first things we see stormtroopers do is shoot Princess Leia.
Right, but they're also shooting her with a stun and up close.
It's still they shoot her, and I would like to come back to my fan theory that Luke has an unspoken and unobserved force power, which is nobody ever really wants to kill him.
Well, so here it's funny that you mentioned Finn because look at this. It says here. Finn is currently sitting with 100% blaster accuracy. To be fair he only takes 4 shots, whose results can be confirmed, but all 4 shots hit, putting him at the top of the list. Following Finn are a couple of our leading ladies. Padme Amidala has a completely respectable 84% hit rate with 11 out of a total of 13 shots landing. Behind her is Princess Leia with 66% accuracy, landing 8 out of 12 shots.
I always like that about both of them.
The sweet spot for Star Wars accuracy is just above 60%, as 3 of our heroes come in as a group very close together. Chewbacca has the second highest number of shots taken with 19, but only 12 land for 63% accuracy. Luke only took 8 shots, but 5 of them landed, putting him right below Chewie at 62%. And then Rey has 61% with 8 out of 13 shots taken. Han Solo brings up the rear. To be fair, there are a couple of important caveats to the Solo numbers. First, he takes significantly more shots than anybody else on the list at 45 shots. Secondly, in both Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, he actually has perfect accuracy. However, he apparently has Stormtrooper level accuracy in Episode 4, which ends up dropping his total accuracy down to 57%. So there we go.
He's kind of yelling. He's kind of doing a Cyril Figgis suppressing fire act in the in Episode 4.
Oh gosh, I wish we had that as like a little video clip.
Can we talk about, while we're talking about Chewie's shooting a bowcaster more likely than not, right?
Yeah.
And that I would like to know some stats on that gun. I'm sure they exist.
Oh.
Every person Chewbacca shoots with that thing is knocked backwards until they hit an obstruction.
Yes.
And does not get up again.
Even in the, I believe it's in the first trilogy sequel trilogy, Force Awakens. Han even makes a comment when he Chewie hands him the gun. He's like, I like this.
As far as I know, I've not done research on this or anything, but as far as my relatively functioning brain recalls, the only character shot by that bowcaster who doesn't immediately get knocked backward and die is Kylo Ren. Everybody else, like, down, slide, and we never see them move again. So that thing is a howitzer.
And the funny thing is, like, I remember, like, back in, like, the 90s when I was playing the Star Wars RPG, like, one of the things about the bowcaster is that you had to have, like, damn near Wookiee strength to even be able to use it. Like, let me pull it up right here, see if I can find it.
Source book ready at hand. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a nerd. Leave me alone.
I mean, we're on a Star Wars podcast. Nobody's degrading you for that.
Good.
I'm just mad that I don't still have my West End Games books.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, I'm looking at the stats here, and like everything about it said that, like, you had to have, like, Wookiee strength to be able to even use it, and it, like, Han is not a Wookiee, clearly, and apparently,
in a lot of ways.
Yep, bowcaster, page 233. There we go. Yeah, he's culturally, he might be considered a Wookiee. Because, he was kind of brought in on that. So, where is bowcaster? Yeah. It doesn't really.
8 kilograms is what Wikipedia listed at.
Yeah, it doesn't give any of those stats, but like in a game like this, like, you get to use it for like one round essentially, and its damage was like 4D.
This is interesting. So according to Wikipedia, the weapon weighs 8 kilograms.
Right.
The capacity, it has 35 shots, which would add another 3.5 kilograms. So 11 kilograms of aimable weapon, to me, feels heavy. But I think it's interesting. Like most Star Wars weapons are described as projectiles rather than laser guns. You know, like you see firefights in the movies and it looks like laser guns, but they're blasters. They're shooting bolts. So they're
they're essentially rail guns.
Yeah. The bowcaster description says it fires an energy encased quarrel. So, which nice use of the crossbow appropriate ammunition there.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we may have gotten far afield there. I always thought the bowcaster was an interesting weapon because it's so powerful, and we only ever see him use it, or maybe one of the bounty hunters uses it at some point. I forget.
Yeah, the only character I ever see use it is Chewbacca, except for that one scene in Force Awakens.
Force Awakens, yeah.
Oh, right.
So my question for you is, what is probably your least favorite thing about Han Solo from what we see in the films? Because we are exposed to him in technically 6 films. Solo, the original trilogy, and then he's in most of Force Awakens, and he has that one cameo scene in Rise of Skywalker. Of those encounters with him, what is your least favorite of those experiences?
Han has a tendency to bail himself out of situations, and like it's always somebody else's fault. I shouldn't say always. 60% of the time, it's always somebody else's fault, and it's not his best. It's not his best look, and he generally overcomes it. But I think he's at his best being the hero as an adult that he wanted to be as a youth. He wanted to save Kira, and he couldn't, and I think that affected him more strongly than we get to see.
Yeah.
I think like anyone, I think he has some cowardly inclinations that he indulges more than a hero would, and I think it makes him a more interesting character because he's not the unassailable paladin that Luke is. He's not the wise old wizard that Kenobi is. He's fallible.
Yeah, it's hard because the one thing that I could point to that I didn't like is something that should come with a caveat of he changes later on. You find out why he's that way. It's when you see him again in Force Awakens, his character seems to have taken a step back. Like you see all this growth throughout the original trilogy of him growing as a character and kind of getting out of that, criminal background. He's still the roguish character, but he's mature. His character's matured. He's had growth as a character. And then you turn around and the first thing you see is, he's back smuggling. He's left his wife and kid. He's left his wife, and you find out later it's because he couldn't, because of when Ben turned to the dark side, but still it just seemed like a complete 180 for that character.
We may be doing some homework for the sequel trilogy, but I think you can imagine why he spent all that character growth in the original trilogy is for nothing. Everything he did to save the galaxy from the dark side didn't save the galaxy from the dark side. Establish the New Republic didn't save the galaxy from the First Order. So it must be disillusioning for him to once again.
Well, and I think
put his money on hope and lose.
I think part of that chalks it up to. There's been this trend in Hollywood where you have craptastic writers who think they're great, and what they do is they dismantle previously established heroes or hero archetypes to pave way for something new at the expense of these other characters. We see this with the original trilogy characters, with kind of the exception of Lando and Leia, but you see it mostly with Luke and Han. But then you also see it again with another Harrison Ford iteration in Indiana Jones. The Dial of Destiny was a great way of trying to do that, because I'm not using the word great in any kind of positive sense. Like, they assassinate the character essentially, and they try to undermine everything that he stands for. Like, with all the loss that for a character like Indiana Jones has ever suffered, it never caused him to stop being who he was. And yet,
Last Crusade is the last Indiana Jones movie. I'll stand on that till I die.
But again, it's you see Harrison Ford playing these two characters, and they do the same thing to Indiana Jones that they did to Han Solo, in that he leaves his family after suffering some kind of loss with regards to his son. With Ben Solo, it's turning to the dark side. With Mutt from Crystal Skull, it's his death in war. And in both cases, he abandons his wife instead of cleaving to her and working through the trauma. They did the same character.
Indy is not an anti-hero like Solo is. He's
no.
Questionable relationships with his students aside, I think Indiana Jones is an arguably just good character through and through.
Right. And that I think is where things suffer. Because, like, for me, like, the thing that I hated the most about seeing the character that Han had become is the fact that he abandoned his family. Is the fact that he abandoned his marriage, that he, like, what happened to Ben was so traumatic for him that he could not side with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
That he could not do anything else.
That's a good
take. That was hurtful for me. Like, I remember being in the theater and watching him getting skewered by Kylo Ren. And, like, I mean, I knew it was coming because it had to. Because with Force Awakens being a rehash of the same plot points beat for beat as A New Hope, he was the wizened old mentor for the hero character.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of Obi-Wan for Luke, you have Han for Rey. And of course he's going to die. That's going to be the case, because that's what happens for the mentor. It's that loss that the hero suffers.
It galvanizes the hero to action.
Exactly. But I knew it was coming, because Harrison Ford was very, very, in no uncertain terms, made it very clear that if he was ever going to return to the franchise after a 30-year hiatus, or however long it was for him, he wanted Han Solo to die. He wanted Han Solo to die at the end of Empire Strikes Back, and they literally and figuratively froze the character due to contract disputes.
That's always funny.
And we got him back. But in this case, Harrison Ford was very clear. Han had to die. And, like, from a storytelling perspective, it makes sense. From a contractual perspective, it makes sense. Meanwhile, my ex-wife took it so personally, she almost cussed out the director, the writer, and the producer of the film while we were there with her sister and brother-in-law, who were, like, hardcore Mormon and don't swear. She almost cussed out the movie. That's how pissed off she was, because Han Solo.
A lot of people felt that way.
So,
well, I think Garrett's is better than mine. I agree.
Yeah.
That's well thought out, and it's a good take on him. That is what he did, and it's not the character that we saw grow through the original trilogy, and then saw all that growth not only cast aside, but backtracked from that. He seemed to be worse off in the sequel trilogy than we meet him at the beginning of the original.
Yeah.
Which, and a lot of that can be laid at the feet of the production team behind the sequel trilogy. And
I blame J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, well, 9 years and counting of complaints on the internet have supported that. There's the sequels are divisive.
Yeah, no, to say the least.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, I will say that I've never in my life, in my youth, played a game of what we used to play real life, where we were acting out roles, where somebody didn't get in a fight over who got to be Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
He's a character who appeals to a mass section of the population. There was a real well-supported, albeit I thought completely misguided, but a large popular theory that Han had killed himself in The Force Awakens, and that like he had activated the lightsaber, or he had like thrown himself on the blade, or said that he had somehow known it was coming and let, or even did it himself. And I think that stems from a section of the fan base that loves Han Solo so much that they cannot believe the only person who could kill Han Solo would be Han Solo. Mm-hmm. And that there's something to be said for a character that is written and performed so well that people love him for so many years and feel as strongly as Garrett and Garrett's ex about his passing. You know, these characters have to die. You knew it was coming, and it's still the method of its delivery broke your heart. I can see it.
Well, it didn't so much break my heart. I mean, like I said, I kind of saw it coming. And so for story wise, it made sense, because like if I would have written the whole story arc a lot cleaner, in a way that honors the characters. But I knew that it was bound to happen just based on, what I knew behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I tried to use that logic to appeal to my ex-wife, and she would not have it.
Well, you can't convince someone who doesn't like those sequels that they should like them. I have tried.
Yeah.
Well,
on
that note,
I do think that the trilogy, the series, the saga wouldn't be what it was without Han Solo as the mentor, as the sidekick. Like Luke has a lot of mentors over the years, but Han Solo is, I think, his best friend, and I think they learn from each other over the course of the movies, and the books and comics flesh them out. And I will say, pursuant to what you said earlier, Garrett, I did like Han Solo a lot more on the page than I did on the screen.
Yeah.
He's well portrayed, and even in the new Marvel comic series, I like him a lot. And the seeing him as a TIE pilot trainee, it was a great comic. I recommend it to anybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we sign off here, do our normal sign off, we do have to do a quick thank you. Today is next week we are changing things up a little bit. Normally, it's our fourth week is our movie review. We're going to do things a little bit differently, and we are going to be reviewing one of my favorite movies in the Star Wars saga, Rogue One. Going to be talking about that one, but also we have to give a quick shout out here. Today here in the U.S. is Veterans Day. If you're in Europe or Canada, it is Remembrance Day or Armistice Day, and I know Brian is a veteran. I have several family members who are veteran. I'm sure Garrett has family members who are veterans. So we just want to quickly honor our veterans who have served in any capacity. Thank you guys for what you've done and what you continue to do, what you did. And we are eternally grateful for the sacrifices you made, whether it was in wartime or peacetime. All that.
I'm old enough to have people that I've served who are no longer with us, but I'm also old enough that I was serving in such a time that they're no longer with us because of natural causes.
Yeah.
Brian, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
It was a joy. It was a true joy. And honestly, there's people serving overseas right now who are serving in a war that began before they were born. And those people are 21. Whereas when I was in my, deployment was, hey, me and all my buddies are going to get on the ship and play Magic the Gathering every night until we get to Hong Kong. And then we're going to do it again and go to Guam and Australia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, the Philippines, South Korea, Honolulu, back to Australia. I did some time over there, but it always makes me think when someone thanks me for my service, because there are people who served in a way that traumatized them and marked them for life. And everything good in my life came from the Navy. I would never have had the nerve to talk to my wife when I first met her if I hadn't been militarily trained to meet strangers as a recruiter.
Yeah.
Wouldn't live in this house if not for the Navy. So it's a It was a good thing. The Navy was the best decision that was ever made for me. My mom actually called the Navy recruiting station and gave them my address, sent to my way. It was pretty funny.
Oh, well, again, thank you guys. Anyway, Garrett, why don't you tell the people out there where they can find you at?
All right. Well, you guys can find me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing, where I talk about my books, The Archives of Hissing Koran. There's 5 in the series currently. I'm working on book number 6. Very, very slowly. And then I also talk about my show on YouTube, The Right Way, where we talk book recommendations, author interviews, and creative writing tips. I just had an episode come out this last Saturday. And then I'm kind of on a 3-week hiatus as I am filming content for December, and then that first episode will drop I believe it's the 7th of December. There will be 3 episodes in a row. There's our holiday preview, my monthly live stream, and then I will be doing a full episode the 21st as an early Christmas present for all those who are subscribed.
Awesome. Brian, what about you? Where can people find you at?
They can find me on the internet on Facebook at the Sith Library and Archives, a lovingly curated collection of Sith culture, art, and even humor. Tune in there. I'm Darth Carosis, and we have a great team of folks out there posting content every day.
Awesome. All right. Of course, as for us right here, you can check us out. Our Instagram is at war_of_the_stars1. You can also email us at warthestars1@gmail.com. That is also our handle on X. YouTube, we are at WOTS. You can also check us out on Spotify. Just search War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. The episodes will be up about a week past what it is on the YouTube channel for Feast of Fandoms, which is our main feed where you can check out all of the shows. Subscribe to Feast of Fandoms for more information there. If you want to support the show, Ko-fi.com/War of the Stars, or you can go to our Spreadshirt shop, spreadshirt.com/shop/war-of-the-stars. As I said earlier, we are a part of Feast of Fandoms. Go to the Feast of Fandoms YouTube channel, subscribe to all of the content there. And with that being said, thank you for watching. Check us out next week, where we'll be talking Rogue One. Of course, as we always say, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you.